Hebrews. This is our Prophets of Awakening. This is our evening Sabbath class. It's the 1st October 2022. We'll be reading out of the book of Isaiah, picking up from this morning. We'll be reading 8, 9, and 10 if we have enough time. So I'm asking everybody to check out our videos on Prophets of Awakening. Our channel. There's a lot of information given. The videos will lead you into the connect you to the dots for you and lead you into the truth or the Hebrew scriptures, which is the Tanakh. And if you understand the information that's being presented, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to Prophets of Awakening channel, and hit the notification button. This is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh is the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses on Mount Sinai by the Lord of Hosts. Shalom and welcome to the Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our evening Sabbath class. We're going to do our moment of silence, evening Sabbath prayer, Psalms. We do some current events, little need to know information, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A or some comments. Then we'll go into reading out of the Tanakh, the book of Isaiah. Okay. This moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts and all that He's doing, along with the Creator Yahweh, to deliver His people in these last days. Oh Lord, we come before Thee at the closing of your Shabbat, thanking You for your mercy and your great power. We appreciate You, O Lord, for your patience and guidance in these last days. Oh Lord, we thank You for awakening us to this great understanding of Your word. When we come before You, that You keep, direct, and guide us through the upcoming week. Oh Lord, for there are trials and pestilence and mayhem at every turn. When we see Your mighty hand in the world's affairs and how You are constructing Your people's deliverance, and we trust and rely upon Thee. And for this cause, we know and respect You greatly. Turn not Thy face from us, but allow us in our searching of You to find You, O Lord, and to dwell with You. Peace be unto You. Okay. So with that being said, you read the Psalm. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna read Psalms 49. It's trust in God and not wealth. Okay, it's a psalm for the sons of Korah. Hear this, all ye people, give ear, all ye inhabitants of the world, both low and high, rich and poor together. My mouth shall speak of wisdom. The mediation of my heart shall be of understanding. I will incline mine ear to a parable. I will open my dark sayings upon the heart. Wherefore should I fear in the days of evil, when the iniquity of my heels shall compass me about? They that trust in their wealth and boast themselves in the multitude of their riches, none of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give to God a ransom for him. For the redemption of their soul is precious, and it ceaseth forever. that he should still live forever and not see corruption. For he sees that the wise men die, likewise the fool and the brutish person perish, and leave their wealth to others. Their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. Nevertheless, man being in honor abideth not. He is like the beast that perishes. This their way is their folly, yet their prosperity approve their sayings. Selah. Like sheep, they are laid in the grave. Death shall feed on them, and the upright shall have dominion over them in the morning, and their beauty shall consume in the grave in their dwelling. But God will redeem my soul from the power of the grave. He shall receive me. Selah. Be not thou afraid when one is made rich, and the glory of his house is increased. For when he dieth, he shall carry nothing away. His glory shall not descend after him. Though while he lived, he blessed his soul, and men will praise thee. Men, when thou doest dwell to thyself, he shall go to the generation of his fathers. They shall never see light. Man that is in honor and understandeth not is like the beast that perishes. So that was Psalm 49 is trust in God and not in wealth. So what the psalmist is saying is that you got wicked folks and you got righteous folks. And we went over this before, how that everybody had this sin from Adam. You got people that came about on the planet that came from a wicked source. Lucifer came into the garden and cohabitated with Eve. And so that's the reason he's telling us not to intermingle with certain people and bring their DNA into our DNA. And so when those people die, he says they go down to the grave, down to the pit. And the pit is, when you understand, it's Gehenna, hell. And he created it for the children of those angels and for the angels themselves. And so the point I was making on that is that he says, the psalmist says in chapter 5, Psalm 49 and 15, that God will redeem my soul, right, from the power of the grave. So we letting you know right here that he's going to be, they already knew they was going to get resurrected. Just like in Ezekiel 37. Our forefathers already knew that. They're going to be resurrected, and they're going to judge the earth and judge the angels, the fallen angels, the ones that came down in the book of Enoch. So he says, but God will redeem my soul from the power of the grave, and he shall receive me. Selah. So that means that his soul going to ascend, not descend, he's going to ascend. It's like Moses ascended into his forefathers. And the rest of our forefathers, they ascended, they was gathered unto their forefathers, which is in heaven, not in the Abraham bosom in the hell in the earth. Okay. Anybody else have any comments on that? Okay, so with that being said, we're gonna do a look to current events.
NATO just officially a short time ago admitted, and it finally came out and admitted that the Nord Stream pipelines were sabotaged. Hello. Like, we didn't know this, but we now have NATO officially declaring that they were, in fact, sabotaged by a state actor. This is not some random guy on a moped or a little, like a jet ski out there or a dolphin. No, this is state sabotage, a government responsible for this. Germany says it's on the edge of an energy abyss, so get ready for blackouts across Europe. More on that in a minute. We'll cover more of that story in a minute because we have a lot of news to get to first on the major part of the Ukraine war and an update this afternoon on that. So first on the referenda, tomorrow everything changes in Ukraine. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Moscow time, the Kremlin will host the signing ceremony, officially welcoming the 4 Donbas regions into the Russian Federation. They will officially become Russian. They will officially become part of Mother Russia. This is a major turning point in world history and an expansion, of course, of the Russian Federation. The New York Times, by the way, didn't waste any time missing a beat on this and continues to parrot the Biden administration's labeling of these referendums as shams. Take a look at your screen. Breaking news. Vladimir Putin will sign agreements on Friday to take over 4 Ukrainian regions, the Kremlin said, after votes widely denounced as a sham. A sham by who, by the way? The Western media? Like, who's saying these are shams?
I don't know. And I really don't like that word. It's not very strong. It's
well, they're parroting exactly what Antony Blinken said, the Secretary of State, right?
Yes.
Which is that these were sham referenda. And then immediately the Western media started parroting this word sham. It's appeared in all manner of Western media publications.
Yes.
Based on what? You had no reporters there, New York Times. You had no journalists there covering this. The journalists who were there, like the Patrick Lancasters of the world, Eva Bartlett, Vanessa Beeley, Wyatt Reed, the list goes on, who were actually there watching this. No one had a gun put to their head to vote. In fact, the Russian Foreign Ministry says these elections were not shams. Not one person was forced to vote, and they voted to protect their families from 8 years of attacks by Ukraine. This was just a short time ago. Watch this.
DealHub helps you rewrite your playbook with the most comprehensive revenue workflow. It's all about beating the competition and closing more deals in one.
Явка проголосовавших и результаты волеизъявления их жителей говорят сами за себя. Люди не хотят возвращаться к прежней жизни. Они достаточно настрадались. Они выстрадали свое будущее. Они доказали, что они имеют право на мирную жизнь.
And the Russian people, according to polling, have wanted, actually, Vladimir Putin, surprisingly, most people don't know that he's a lawyer. Most people don't know that he's actually one of the more moderate people in his own government. And most people don't know, actually, that the Russian people have been pushing him to actually go further and harder and faster into Donbass. So,
right. His parliament voted for military action long before he took it. He really took a long time to get around to it.
Right. And so now here we go. A major shift. And so, of course, what this means is 3 p.m. tomorrow, Moscow time, means that the military operation now shifts from a special military operation to an anti-terrorist operation, which is what we've been hearing, right? The full weight and power of the Russian army going up against anyone who attacks these regions.
Now, I just feel the need to remind everyone that it didn't have to be like this, because when these regions were occupied by Russia early in the conflict, they were happy to say these regions are independent. We'll support them, but Ukraine now leave them alone. Right. And that was part of the peace deal that the West continues to ignore.
Right.
So this could have been over a long time ago if the West was willing to be humble in any shape or form.
No, of course they weren't. And right. And this is, again, why NATO doesn't want this war to end at all. They want to fight till the last Ukrainian. They don't give a rat's ass. In fact, new reports and secret information came out about NATO's involvement. One former NATO advisor said that, no, NATO doesn't care at all about the Ukrainian people. They're using it as a staging ground, a proxy war, and they will fight to the last Ukrainian because they don't care about the Ukrainian people at all. That's why yesterday NATO held a secret meeting that was exposed by the New York Times. According to the New York Times, 40 NATO members met in secret to ramp up their war in Ukraine, not de-escalate the war. Their goal, of course, is to turn this into a forever war, which is what they want. Here's what the New York Times says. In a sign that the United States and its allies believe that the fighting in Ukraine will last years, military officials from more than 40 countries gathered in NATO's headquarters in Brussels on Wednesday to discuss how their governments can ramp up production of arms and ammunition. Because They don't clearly have enough arms and ammunition going into Ukraine. Can you believe this? I mean, they've been telling us this is what's going to happen for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, I mentioned that this morning, how that these people Israel is the number one supplier of arms. They're leading the world in ammunition and all that technology. So we see who's benefiting behind it.
So then, yes, I said no, I can't believe it, but yes, I
yes,
can.
Yes, you can.
It's unbelievable, but believable, like the world we live in today.
Let us know in their chat if you can believe this. NATO is actually going to start sending more weapons to Ukraine. Can you believe this? Is it shocking? NATO is
I personally am shocked.
Are you shocked?
I'm personally shocked.
You cannot
very
believe
shocked.
Scandalized.
This sounds fake. This is fake.
More weapons? Do we have more weapons?
There is always room for what was the commercial? There's always room for Jello. There's always room for weapons.
There's always room for weapons. Last night, someone in our chat or in the comments after our live show said, and by the way, after tonight's live show, I will be in the comments section of the live show afterwards. So for about an hour. So after the show is off the air, join us in the comments section and we'll go back and forth and have a discussion. So feel free to do that. But
Clayton never comes to bed.
Right.
He just eats, lives, sleeps,
this show.
geopolitics.
So last night, someone just wrote the words fake news in our comments. And I said, could you please be specific? And then another person chimed in and said, how refreshing. A channel is actually like when someone like engaging with someone who internet trolls who just post things like this. I said, yeah, if I'm being wrong, if anything that I'm saying here is inaccurate, what we're doing is we're reporting based on facts and evidence. So if there's anything that was actually faked and you have some evidence of that, please let me know. That person never responded, of course, because it's just easy to type those words and then walk away from your computer. But you should know that NATO is a weapon of U.S. hegemony. It's very easy to uncover that. It's not fake news at all. You can do your own research if you like. If you speak out against it, you will be locked up. You will be blacklisted. You will be pushed to the side, which is this unbelievable moment yesterday. I want you to watch this. When British Labour Party member Angelo Sanchez got up, because they're voting right now to send more money and weapons to Ukraine. And you're seeing this fracturing now in certain leaders in Europe saying, no, enough is enough. Our people are suffering. So he got up yesterday and told the truth about NATO aggression in Ukraine. He told the truth about Ukrainian censorship, about oppression of people, about it being one of the most corrupt countries in all of the world. Yesterday, he got up and said this. He told the truth about how corrupt Ukraine is. He was suspended from the Labour Party and kicked out of the conference when he said this.
What does supporting Motion 13 on Ukraine mean? It means that the future Labour government will be sending money to a government, the Ukrainian government, that is repressing the left in their own country, a government that is criminalizing socialist parties and imprisoning Ukrainian activists. You will be supporting a government that has passed anti-workers laws, which completely strips Ukrainian workers of collective rights. If you support this motion, Motion 13 on Ukraine, you are not supporting the Ukrainian people. You are supporting only the United States. You are supporting neoliberalism. You are supporting imperialism.
Sorry, excuse me, delegate. This is a debate. You've got to listen.
Yeah, so they cut him off.
We don't want to hear that.
We don't want to hear
anymore.
that. Sorry, you can't say that. Isn't it amazing, though? He was calling out their BS. So how will this affect us? I mean, that's the big question, right?
Well, Europeans are now being warned that there could be a disruption of even mobile networks this winter. My theory is that Germany was starting to cave to the pressure of protests and the demands of their citizens to open up this pipeline, and we're about to do it. And that's why whatever forces said, oh no, you better not. Because
why, yeah.
I do think that Europe was budgeting some extra affordable energy this winter because they need it, right? And so now Europeans are being told that even cell phone networks could be disrupted.
Why? This is interesting. So why is this?
So the energy crisis in Europe could cause blackouts and disruption to mobile service because telecom companies are saying that the energy shortage will push their networks to the brink. That's because these networks, the cell towers, run on electricity, which necessitates some type of fuel. Well, in France now, they're going to do routine maintenance on their nuclear reactors. So those will go down for a while. France is saying, well, I know we don't have a lot of energy, but we're just going to go and polish these and not use them for a while. That's a bit inexplicable. And then again, the crisis of fuel to power the power plants that we run our lives on.
So let's talk about blackouts, actually, because this is a big piece of this, right? Which are far worse than we think. You think, oh, blackouts, like that's not a big deal. It's like just like a power outage, and it'll, flip the switch, it comes back on, everything's good to go. No, I mean, and I have to admit, I was fairly ignorant on this point until last night when I spent some time watching German television. So I speak German, and I translated this German television report with a blackout expert, Robert Jungisch. I'm not saying his last name correctly. He's a blackout expert. So my German is not top notch. I translated it the best that I could to be as authentic as I could. This was on German TVs, the independent network Off One. Again, with a blackout expert, says this is a catastrophe in the making, and it is going to be absolutely devastating. It will be fatal to the German people when we have these blackouts, which are coming. Watch this.
In den Medien nicht so drastisch gewarnt wird, wie das nötig wäre. Man hat mir zum Beispiel letzte Woche bei einem Interview vorgeworfen, dass ich Panik machen würde und nur Profitgier hätte, weil ich gesagt habe, die Blackout-Wahrscheinlichkeit schätze ich auf 99,9%. Dabei ist es eigentlich Blödsinn, eine Prozentzahl zu sagen für ein Ereignis, was noch nie eingetreten ist, weil Wahrscheinlichkeiten kann ich nur berechnen, wenn ich auch eine gewisse Wiederholzahl habe. Aber ich wollte damit einfach zum Ausdruck bringen, dass es eben sehr, sehr wahrscheinlich ist und wir schon mit einem Bein über dem Abgrund stehen. Denn wenn man das nicht tut, wenn die Leute nicht endlich verstehen, dass wir vor dieser dramatischen, möglicherweise Situation des Blackouts stehen, bereiten sie sich nicht vor, was eben gerade passiert. Und dann wird es für diese Menschen, aber auch für die Unternehmen katastrophale Folgen.
I mean, it's startling. So he's saying it'd be a total system failure. And you cannot just like turn the power grid back on and off. I mean, 30% of electronic devices would be destroyed during a blackout. And it's going to be fatal for people.
Yes. Now in Europe, we're being told that some of these.
Okay. Any comments on that? So now you see why they had going to war, because of, like I said, they already was in a pickle before this, and in America too. So in order to, if you go back in history, every time they get in a jam like this, they go to war to offset it. So I got
is making some moves of its own. If the annexation of the new territories was Moscow's big move, then fast-tracking NATO's membership bid is what Kiev is looking on. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced a bid for a fast-track membership of the NATO military alliance. He also has ruled out the possibility of talks with Russia so long as President Vladimir Putin is in Kremlin. Now, Zelensky has also signed the NATO application papers in an online video, and the move was being seen as a forceful rebuttal to the Kremlin after Vladimir Putin held a ceremony in Moscow to proclaim the annexation of the Russian-held territories in eastern Ukraine. Now, there are some pretty pressing questions that rise up. Ukraine's intention to join the NATO military alliance is believed to be the prime reason behind Russia unleashing a war on Ukraine. Now, Russia has openly made it clear several times in the past that it will not tolerate any further eastward expansion of the American-led NATO military alliance, while Kiev wants to get behind the defensive shield of the Western military bloc led by Washington. Now, it's not known as to what an accelerated application from Kiev would even mean. Now, joining the NATO military alliance is a mammoth task even in peace times, as it requires unanimous support from the members. And now that the state that is applying for membership is already at war, it only complicates the process further. And NATO's defining principle is that an armed attack against any one member is considered as an attack against all members of the NATO military alliance. And this means that if a member state which is already at war were to join the NATO military alliance, then the 30-member alliance would immediately become a party in the war. Hence, if Ukraine becomes a NATO member now, considering this is a possibility, then it would bring the alliance in direct confrontation with Russia. Predictably, NATO's chief was pretty guarded while responding to Zelensky's request.
This remains Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. And it does not change our commitment to support Ukraine. NATO is not party to the conflict, but we provide support to Ukraine so it can uphold its right for self-defense enshrined in the UN Charter.
Prime is more expensive than ever, but I just discovered a money-saving.
Okay, so in other words, they're saying that if Ukraine join NATO, all hell gonna break loose. So and they're doing it because they had to vote last week on those regions that wanted to know if they wanted to go and side with Russia or side with Ukraine and NATO, and they all decided to side with Russia. So Ukraine is coming back to bring dissension and bring chaos. They want to join NATO, and if that happens, we already see what's going on with the Nord Stream pipeline. So stuff ain't looking good. Okay. Anybody have any comments on that? Okay. Shalom, Markel. Shalom, Nancy. Nisi. Okay, so with that being said, I was gonna open it up. Let me give you got some need to know information first. Let me get that.
Back in 1995, Dr. Claude Anderson, conducted an interview, with a brother out of Detroit. And I want you to hear something that he's saying about Black people at that time period being solidified as a permanent underclass. Let's roll that.
Mentioned that Blacks will be pretty much a permanent underclass in America by the year 2015. Why the year 2015? 2015 because what I've concluded from analysis is that there are going to be a converging of social factors nationally and internationally that's going to place Blacks in a permanent status of underclassship. And we anticipate by that point in time, based on all the research that's coming to us, that the next generation of whites are going to be more anti-Black than they've been since the Civil Rights Movement. 2, we anticipate by the same token about 86 million Hispanics coming into the United States and about 41 million Asians by that point in time, which is going to kick Black folk out of being the minority in the society down to a minority. We've been number 2 in the society for 400 years as a group. We're going to become number 4. And if we have not gotten anything after being number 2 for 400 years, you guess what's going to happen when we become number 4.
Now, was Dr. Claude Anderson right? Well, I looked at the 2020 census. And according to the 2020 census, at least what we're counting, it was about 62 million people of Hispanic origin. Now, Dr. Anderson say 80 plus million. We're not talking about the people that's not counted. I believe he probably hit his target or then some. Just in the past 2 years since Joe Biden has been in office, 4 million of them have came into this country. 4 million since he's been in office. Because Joe Biden has this open border policy and everybody just flooding on in. It's so bad here in the state of Texas. That's why the governor sent them to other states, because they're draining all the resources here. They in the border towns as well. Even some of the Haitians are here in Texas as well. Even I think was it McAllen, Texas. My wife recently said that she saw a bunch of Haitians there, and that's something you don't see. Is a bunch of Haitians in the border town, but they even there. But understand, the majority of the immigrants coming in is not Haitians. We all know this. Now, he talked about 40 million Asians, right? Well, according to the 2020 census, about 19, almost 20 million Asians. So he's not, too far off. And once again, there are Asians here who are undocumented as well. That's not counted. So he could have hit his numbers right on. But let's talk about a few things that he did talk about, different things internationally that pushed black people out the way, or different things domestically with these other groups. We all talk about the Asian hate crime bill, right? They are in less population than black folk, and yet their status has been elevated above black folk, like they was enslaved for hundreds upon hundreds of years. So we still talking about that. You talk about the Hispanic community, how they have been elevated in many ways over black folk, because them folks want to use them and they want to give them menial jobs and not pay them right, because we're going to fight for it, etc. Right? We're going to fight for equal pay and the right pay. We're not going to put up with anything. Right. But so they want to prioritize, those groups over black people. Anytime it's something for us to make sure it's for everybody, so they can go ahead and prioritize all these other groups. What Dr. Anderson has said is that us going down to number 4 and being a permanent underclass, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, we're already there. And Dr. Claude Anderson was right. He was been warning about this happening, and no one did anything in our community about this. And our politicians have been collaborating to make sure this happened, because they get their checks. You understand? Our politicians don't support reparations like that, because they already got their reparations by selling you and me out for the agenda of the Democrat Party. I can't even say Republican Party, because the majority of black folks aren't Republicans. It's very few. On top of that, we got to deal with economic sabotage in this country that happens to us constantly. It don't happen to you.
Buy big and pay small.
To these other groups. See, the other groups will come in America with a clean slate and thrive. And that's why they tell you within 5 years, oh, hey, I got this, got that. I worked so hard. You black folks are lazy. No, you're not telling the story that they allowed you to come in here. They paid for you a lot of things. Listen, black people right now are coming to this country and staying in nice hotels while black folks are being homeless. People who broke our federal law, that's okay. The federal law don't matter. It don't matter at all. But let you break a federal law. Watch where you go as a black person. People who break in federal law get put up in hotels, but people who were scamming, because some of you were, scamming them PPP loans, and you get federal lockup like this. They break the law, they get a hotel, you get a jail cell. I mean, this is where we at with folks. And see, like I said, certain messages I just stopped giving y'all because y'all just can't receive it. And I'm cool with it. Like even certain things in the past I used to do. Like even through this platform I wanted to do. People didn't want to receive it. You're rejecting it. Fine. I said, I'm going to keep my mouth shut about it. or I'm gonna talk to my crowd that really will listen to certain things. But the fact is, in America, it's not going to change. Black folks are going to be a permanent underclass. Reparations can help with that, but just being realistic, reparations is a long-term fight, very, very long-term. I always say to Black people, make sure to take care of yourself and your family first, and don't be in a position to be a permanent underclass. Now, the way you really get in a permanent underclass status is through economics. If you're a Black person that got to the point that you're making 6 figures, 7 figures, then you're doing good. You're okay. You're okay. But the people who are in low income, that's who the underclass status is going to affect them more, because all this stuff is built off of economics. You understand, in a capitalistic society, they got to have an underclass. Folks, you can influence to get out there and vote for the Democrat Party. Because notice, the message isn't just get out and vote for whatever candidate you feel is going to be good. No, it's Democrat. You think the Republicans? No, just tell people to participate in the process. Don't tell people what political party to vote for. That's why we say Democrat shields. It's because you're pushing a particular party. You're not pushing just voting what's your interest, voting on policy. You understand? But Dr. Anderson, he's been spot on. He's been spot on, and Black folk, the only way out of this is economics, because politicians not going to save us. They never have been a savior. It's economics. Economics. Entrepreneurship helps us, gets us out of problems.
Okay, any comments on that? Yeah, if you want to watch all of it, it's Dr. Carl Anderson. He made a prophecy back in 1995. It's on a couple of my videos about Black Americans becoming a permanent underclass if they didn't make take any efforts to deal with the things that was happening to us as a people. So if you want to finish watching it, it's on you. Okay, so I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A. Anybody got any questions or comments about anything about this morning class or last night on Clubhouse during the week? Anything you want to bring up? Okay, so I got something right here. If you notice, you remember with the jab, Bill Gates one prophesied about the jab.
Bill Gates says political polarization may bring it all to an end and could even lead to a civil war. I saw this headline and I was like, wow, that's really interesting thing of him to say. But so what? A lot of people have said that. And then I actually scroll down and read the quote. He says, I admit that political polarization may bring it all to an end. We're going to have a hung election and a civil war. Yet he didn't say we might. He says we are. Mm-hmm. We are going to have a hung election and a civil war. Now, I wonder, could this be because Bill Gates reads The Bulwark? Because we talked about that last week. And I don't know if you saw the story. The Bulwark published an article about how the Civil War could start. And I think they make an interesting point that come the midterms, you got right-wing people and left-wing people showing up to the polls. Duh, it's an election. And they're accusing each other of impropriety or something. A fight breaks out. Someone's armed. Someone gets shot. There's a viral video of someone being killed in a polling place. That's what the Bulwark said. I don't know for sure, but I do think that if you already have people who don't trust the election, they're of course going to show up to polling places. I mean, what, even 5 people maybe at each place? And then you're going to get Antifa types and leftist types, and they're going to show up as well. And then what happens?
Well, his comments are very important here because he said specifically, I quote, I have no experience with it. I'm not going to put my money on it because I don't know how to spend it, saying pretty much that it's guaranteed. But then he also went on and later made the points that it's polarization and the lack of trust that is the main problem, specifically pointing at Robert Kennedy as someone who, of course, criticized him. And he's using this.
Okay, is everybody watching this video? Hello?
Yes.
Look at it, look at this guy. Look at him real close. I just noticed that. Crazy. Look at his chest.
This concern, which a large majority of the American people have. A lot of people think there's going to be a civil war in this country, according to many polls. He's using this fear in order to galvanize pressure on people criticizing him. So this is another aspect to also understand here with his latest kind of salacious comments.
I love this idea. Like Bill Gates is sitting in his living room, like watching TV. And then he just comes across this a news story about Robert Kennedy criticizing him. And he said, what about me? There's going to be a civil war in this country. Like he thinks that.
But the article also talks about how part of the problem is misinformation, right? And we know that misinformation is a catch-all term that is used to describe anything that the left doesn't agree with.
Yep.
You know.
Here's my favorite part though. He says, quote, I have no expertise in that. I'm not going to divert my money to that because I wouldn't know how to spend it, says the guy who owns more farmland than anyone else in the United States.
Because we're dismissed by a court.
Right.
Exactly. And this is like what, years later or something, right?
Yep. 1 year. Yep.
So, when I see the FBI weaponized and going after run-of-the-mill conservatives, just like this is like a regular person, this is not like a politician, my immediate instinct is civil war. But my point here is that no, Scott might be right. Conservatives on the right might just, get on their knees and say, I'm so sorry, please, I don't want to fight.
Well, we have been doing that for a while. That's been going on.
Look, I understand.
The thing about saying that it's all just happening on Twitter, though, is Twitter is our collective imagination. It's
debatable, but
I think it's there as part of what we are imagining and what we believe, and it's where we're exploring ideas in real time. We're certainly not doing that in any other aspect of our society. That's not happening in books. That's not happening in movies.
Okay. Any comments on that? So, to me, it make all the sense in the world to me. You got to go back and remember that it's going to be something that's, like the guy mentioned, it's going to be something terribly horrible that's going to go down, that they're going to have to bring ships. At the drop of a dime, they're going to have to bring ships to get us up out of here. Something around in that vicinity going to have to happen. I can see it, me. And the only way for them to save this place is going to have to be get us out of here. You got to separate us. So we got to get us out of here. I can see it. I can see it. Anybody else have any comments on that? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I said I was going to read a couple of chapters out of Isaiah. I'm going to read them and then we'll close out. It'll be about we'll be on here for about an hour. Okay, so I'm in Isaiah. We read 5, 6, and 7 this morning. Okay, chapter 8. Isaiah. Okay, says chapter 8, deliverance foreshadow. Moreover, the Lord said unto me, take thee a great roll, write upon it with a man's pen concerning Shabbat. And I took unto me a faithful witness to record Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Jeconiah, whatever his name is. And I went unto the prophetess, she conceived and bore a son. Then said the Lord unto me, call his name Shabbat. And I showed you who that was. That's this kid right here, the son that Isaiah had from his wife, is the kid that's in Isaiah 7 and 14. But they're trying to tell you that it's JC in the future. So verse 4 says, for before the child shall know the knowledge. This is child right here that's supposed to be in Isaiah 7 and 14. For before the child shall have knowledge to cry, my father and my mother, The riches of Damascus and the spoils of Samaria shall be taken away before the king of Assyria. So all this is pertaining to the events that's happening at that time. It has nothing to do with the future. No sun coming in the future. So it says, the Lord spake also unto me, saying, for as much as this people refuses the waters of Shiloh, that go softly and rejoice in Rezin and remodel the sun, now therefore, behold, the Lord bringeth up upon them the waters of the river, strong and many, even the king of Assyria, and all his glory, and he shall come up over his channels and go over his banks. And he shall pass through Judah, he shall overflow and go over, and he shall reach even to the neck, and stretching out of his wings shall fill the breadth of thy land, O Emmanuel. Associate yourselves, O ye people, and ye shall be broken in pieces, and give ear, all ye of far countries. Gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces, and gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand, for God is with us. So let me shine a light on that right quick before I move forward. So if you go back to Isaiah 7 and 14, show you what these people done. 7 and 14 says, 13 says, well, I start at 12. He's given Ahaz is out of the house of David. And the Lord of hosts, the God that's over Israel, got a covenant with David. He always going to have a son out of David's lineage on the throne. If it's not, it's a problem in Israel. So he got Isaiah, one of his prophets, to talk to Ahaz, and he says in verse 12, but Ahaz said, well, he asked him in verse 11, ask thee a sign of the Lord of hosts. Ask it either in the depths or in the heights above. But Ahaz, knowing what's going on, said, I will not tempt, neither will I would not ask, neither will I tempt the Lord. He know the repercussions of that. So 13, and Isaiah said to him, and he said, hear ye now, O house of David. That's because Ahaz is out of the house of David. Is it small thing for you to weary men, but will ye weary my God also? Then here we go. Therefore the Lord himself, Lord of hosts himself, shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. So all they did was, if you go over here to Isaiah chapter 8 and verse 8, and it says, and he shall pass through Judah, he shall overflow and go over, and he shall reach even to the neck, and the stretching out of his wings shall fill the breadth of thy land, O Emmanuel. That's what was there originally. And that O Emmanuel means God with us. So you say, what are you talking about? Well, you keep reading. Associate yourself, O ye people, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Talking about the king of Assyria is coming. And ye shall be broken in pieces, and give ear, all ye of a far country. Gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Verse 10, here we go. Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the words, it shall not stand, for God is with us. That's the same thing as O Emmanuel. They're tricking it off, but it should be O Emmanuel, just like in verse 8, should be O Emmanuel right there in verse 10, and O Emmanuel in verse 14, 7 and 14. They tricked it off. Anyway, Isaiah chapter 8, verse 11, for the Lord spake thus to me, a strong hand, and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of the people, saying, say ye not a confederacy to all them to whom this people shall say, a confederacy, neither fear ye their fear, nor be afraid. Sanctify the Lord of hosts himself, and let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. And he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling, and for a rock of offense to both the house of Israel, for a gin and for the snare of the habits of Jerusalem. And many among them shall stumble and fall, and be broken, and be snared, and be taken. Bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples, and I will wait upon the Lord that hideth his face from the house of Jacob, and I will look for him. Behold, I and the children whom the Lord have given me are for signs and wonders in Israel from the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth in Mount Zion. And when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards that peep and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their God, for the living to the dead, to the law and to the testimony? If they speak not according to his word, it is because there is no light in them. And they shall pass through it hardly be stayed and hungry, and it shall come to pass that when they shall be hungry, they shall fret themselves and curse their king and their God, and look upward. And they shall look unto the earth, and behold trouble, and darkness, and dimness, and anguish, and they shall be driven into darkness. So that was Isaiah chapter 8. I'll just read. Anybody have any comments on it? Okay. Chapter 9. It's the birth of the Prince of Peace. Okay. It's another one of those verses stating hoodwinked. Another chapter. Nevertheless, the dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation, when at first he lightly afflicted the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, and afterwards did more grievously afflict her by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, in the Galilee of the nations. And people that walk in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of shadow of death, upon them have the light shine. Thou hast multiplied the nations, and not increased the joy. They joy before thee according to the joy of the harvest, and as men rejoice when they divide the spoils. For thou hast broken the yoke of his burden, and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be the burning and the fuel of the fire. For unto us a child is born. It's the covenant that the Lord of hosts have with David. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. The government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government, peace. Upon the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end. Upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and establish it with justice, with judgment, and with justice from henceforth, even forever. And the zeal of the Lord of hosts shall perform this. So you got to ask yourself, what are they talking about? So if you go back to Genesis chapter 1, pertaining to the covenant, the Most High God with David, go to Genesis chapter 1. He says that he told David he's going to always keep his son on the throne out of his lineage, right? Okay. And he also has, that's included in that covenant, is he's going to, no matter how many wicked ones come up on the throne, he's going to bring a righteous one. After so long, he's going to bring a righteous one, just like David himself. He's going to come and he's going to reform Israel. So we see in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 1, the vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of, you go 4 kings, Uzi, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. So this is a timeline that Isaiah existed during these 4 kings. And then you go do your research on them. Uzi was wicked. Jotham was wicked. Ahaz was wicked. Then, just like the Most High promised David, he brought Hezekiah. Hezekiah brought reform. So when you go back to chapter 8, you see that it came to Hezekiah. Uzi, Jotham, and Hezekiah brought darkness. And this is how chapter 8 ends. They shall look unto the earth and behold trouble and darkness, dimness and anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness. It's because of 3 wicked kings. They're not bringing the law. They're not bringing the light. They're not dealing with the Most High's covenant or nothing. So we get to 9, this birth of the Prince of Peace is Hezekiah. That's what 6, 7, 8, 6 and 7 talking about. And the Lord of hosts is the one that's performing it. So Hezekiah come on the scene. That's what they're talking about. It has nothing to do with somebody coming in the future. So when you get to, I'm gonna pick up in Isaiah 9 and 8. The Lord sent the word into Jacob, and it have lightened upon Israel, and all the people shall know, even Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria, that say in their pride and their stoutness of the heart, the bricks are falling down, but we will build it with hewn stones. Sycamores are cut down, but we shall change them into cedars. Therefore the Lord shall set up the adversary of Rezin against him and join his enemies together, the Assyrians before and the Philistines behind, and they shall devour Israel with open mouth. For all this, his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. For the people turneth not unto him that smiteth them, neither do they seek the Lord of hosts. Therefore the Lord will cut off from Israel head and tail, branch and rush in one day. The ancient and honorable, he is the head, and the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail. For the leaders of this people cause them the air, and they that are led of them are destroyed. Therefore the Lord shall have no joy in their young men, neither shall he have mercy on their fatherless and the widows, for everyone is a hypocrite and an evildoer, and every mouth speaketh folly. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. For wickedness burneth as the fire, it shall devour the briars and the thorns, and shall kindle in the thicket of the forest, and they shall mount up like the light, the lifting up of smoke. Through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened, and the people shall be as the fuel of the fire, and no man shall spare his brother. And he shall snatch on the right hand and be hungry, and he shall eat on the left hand, and they shall not be satisfied. They shall eat every man the flesh of his own arm. And Manasseh, Ephraim and Manasseh, and they together shall be against Judah. For all this, his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Okay. Any comments? Question. That was Isaiah chapter 8 and 9. I read. Anybody got any comments on that? Okay. So with that being said, that was we right at an hour. We kind of went like 2 hours, a little over this morning. So I figured I'd do an hour tonight. Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Comments about anything before we go? Questions? Like I was saying, you see what's running across the bottom of the screen. If you get a need, urge or need, it's greatly needed, the support. Okay. With that being said, I want to say shalom, shalom, and another shalom.